First fire of the season was the Pierces Creek fire. Started on Friday the 1st of November and went all the way through till the 12th of November when it was declared completely out. Started with an abandoned car and then it quickly escalated into some wildlings that have been regrowing since the 03 fires.
First of all, thanks, comms. I'm just out near Coin Hut Crossing Road. Are you able to attach me to that job out at Pierces Creek, please?
I took over early on in the job, which was on the evening of the 1st of November. A fire had broken out at about 5:30, thereabouts in the evening. Chief Officer of Rural Fire Service, Joe Murphy, was looking after it early on, but they called for an incident controller overnight. I came in at about 7 o'clock and assumed the role of incident controller until about 9 o'clock the next morning.
On the first night of the fire here, the fire call came in quite late in the day. There was a lot of effort put in by a fairly skeleton incident management team right throughout the night to identify assets at risk, where this fire was going to go. It became very clear that it had the potential to be a really nasty, big campaign fire.
The weather conditions were quite unpredictable. We had a lot of sort of norwesterly gusty winds. Overnight, normally, in most cases, the temperatures will come down and the relative humidity will go up. That didn't happen at all that night. It stayed at 23, 25 degrees and the relative humidity was down in the low 30s, when ordinarily it might expect it to go up to 60, 70%. So in terms of fighting the fire, it wasn't looking good at all. At around about 4 o'clock in the morning on that first night, the crews out in the field radioed in and they said the weather had really picked up, the winds had picked up, the temperature was still, as I said earlier, 25 degrees thereabouts, and crews actually withdrew from firefighting due to safety concerns.
On the night shift of that first fire, it became evident that this fire had a lot of potential from work that our fire behaviour analysts had done. Really high windy day forecast, lots of dry fuel, lots of potential for that fire to take a big run, and that's why we brought the large air tankers in. We had put together an incident action plan, and so when the crews arrived first thing the next morning, we had a definite plan for them, what we wanted to achieve on the following day.
It's running through some very inaccessible and steep country, which is making it very hard to control.
Half a dozen rural properties have been placed under immediate threat in the vicinity of Peace River and the Tidbinbilla tracking station. 5 water bombing choppers and 2 large air tankers backing up the dozens of ground crews who are facing one almighty struggle.
One of the great tools we have now, of course, is the ability to use line scans to see through the dark, to see through the cloud, and look at exactly where the fire is at any given time. This fire did see multiple line scans taken, showing the incident management team exactly where the fire is, and that's invaluable in our planning for, are we doing the right thing, are our tactics working, is the fire spotting well ahead of itself. Pierces Creek fire for the large air tankers in Australia was one of the first events that they dropped retardant and gel on. Gel drops initially and then retardant as well, with a view to protecting some of the communications assets that were on the eastern edge of that fire, and that was done quite successfully. The utilisation of Canberra Airport, which is an exciting new feature of the ACT firepower this year, was activated for the Hercules to support it in supplying water to that aircraft. A really good addition to our firepower, being able to have quick turnaround times on these large air tankers is fantastic. It was quite exciting to have the old Southcare helicopter be one of the aircraft that we used at this Pierces Creek fire. Old Charlie did a fantastic job with its belly tank from the very start of that fire right through to its end in helping suppress it.
safe outside the property called River Lee. Over.
We can't get around that.
So it's 1-6. We're currently at this spot over as well. There's not much we can do till the chopper's finished. We're going to head back up to where we were and check that top end of our line.
I just went and checked that spot over to the north. We just did a run around of a couple of tracks, and yeah, it's pretty rough going up there, mate.
Oh yeah, we copy that, but I think we're sort of experiencing a bit of that now.
I filled the IC role for the second night, so I came in around 6 o'clock, probably 6 o'clock, had a bit of an overlap period with Rowan Scott, who was the day shift IC. Sort of got a handle on what they had achieved during the day, the size of the fire, the weather conditions, the incident action plan overnight, and that was going to involve cutting containment lines. Again, conditions weren't great, and the terrain wasn't great for cutting containment lines as well. I mean, they're difficult to cut at the best of times, but when the fire or the containment line is wanted along a sort of a 30-degree slope, it's very, very difficult. But as it turns out, they were able to do it, but it took a little longer than we wanted. I think it came into the second day before that was really accomplished.
There's still a lot of work to do with that though. This is very steep and inaccessible terrain, and while we still have significant active fire on some of those edges, we can't get in there as much as we'd like just yet.
The fire at Pierces Creek, southwest of Canberra, continues to grow, partly due to backburning. Milder conditions today allowed crews to take the upper hand. Helicopters attacked hotspots from the air, while those on foot tried to reduce the fuel.
In the height of the activity, we had 3 lighter helicopters and 4 medium helicopters, all water bombing. This was the first fire that I've done for quite some time in the ACT, where we've had a few days of picking the fire edger off with raft crews. Lots of helicopter activity supporting raft crews on the ground. Raft crews standing there calling out drops directly with their buckets onto the logs and other hot spots lying around on the ground. Without those crews on the ground, aircraft simply just are not effective. Everyone loves filming them, taking photos, and thinks they're the hero of the day, but at the end of the day, without the crews on the ground, the aircraft are actually really ineffective. Together, this Pierces Creek fire was a very good operation of combining raft and helicopters to suppress the fire.
bushfire burning to the southwest of Canberra is being controlled within containment lines tonight. The fire has been burning for 3 days in very rugged terrain in the Brindabella Ranges south of Cotter Dam. The 204-hectare fire remains 7 kilometres from the nearest suburb of Canberra, and the alert level for the fire stays at advice.
With the Tidbinbilla tracking station, of course, that's restricted airspace. So we had to do a lot of work in making sure that we could get our aircraft into there first thing in the morning without being disturbed by the operations of Tidbinbilla tracking station. And also the school kids that we discovered that were at Birragai.
We had a group of school children on camp at Birragai, which is about 10 k's to the southeast of where the fire was. As I said, we didn't expect the fire probably to reach that area, but the smoke can.
As conditions intensified, Paddy's River Road was closed at both entry points, as were other danger areas including Canberra Pool. Young students forced back to school after ditching their camp at Birragai, 10 kilometres south of the fire zone.
We had to go because of the fire. We were coming back from an activity and we saw so much smoke coming through the trees.
Light rains, cooler temperatures and all hands on deck. The Pierces Creek bushfire now contained and under control.